Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today, we're going to be doing something different. This time, the conversation, it's about you. No, not like that. Or like that either. Why would you even think? Never mind. For those of you who aren't aware, my name is Mark Grondin. I'm the host of this series, which includes my critical reviews, year-end rankings of songs and records, special comments on specific elements of pop culture, and of course, my weekly series, Billboard Breakdown, where I dig into the twisted and often chaotic mess of the Billboard Hot 100. And over the past 3 to 4 years, it's been astounding to watch this community of over 23,000 people really grow, developing friendships, collaborations, and even some memes out of this. And while there have certainly been some contentious moments, I like to think that we as a community have actually forged something special down here. I can look down to most of the comment sections on YouTube, and really, it's not that toxic. I'm pretty impressed with that, and really, it's a credit to you guys. And now, it's a time to take a step that I've been considering for nearly the past few years. A chance to open up the floodgates, an experiment that I've seen refined and tested in so many quarters, and I speak, of course, about Patreon. Founded in 2013, this was a service designed at its core to better connect artists with their fans and audiences, cut out the middlemen to build that symbiotic relationship as old as time, inspired by the old concept of the patron of the arts. At a deeper level, it's about forging a connection, allowing the audience some insight into the process or even the direction of the art that was being created. It's enabling talent, allowing some great things to really grow, and yet, I don't really fit the traditional definition of an artist. Yeah, I am a published author, but I fall more in line as a critic, leaning even more towards journalism. And while there is indeed some value in sparking that conversation of criticism being held as art, I'm convinced that it needs to be treated in a slightly different way. YouTube in its own way has already started to change this critical dichotomy and paradigm, harkening back to an older tradition of individual critics, men and women describing, analyzing, and critiquing art, not corporate entities with a brand delivering their reviews from on high. For the most part, over 600 reviews is giving you plenty of evidence. You all know where I stand. And this means that the next step, it's bringing more of that conversation, more of that process back to you. As such, the principle of this Patreon experiment is going to be a little bit different than most you probably have seen. It's smaller, more flexible, more ready and able to connect with the base level so that your voices can be heard, and you can have some real insight to my process and how it all works. As such, the 3 tiers of involvement are intended to be accessible while still maintaining a clear understanding and control of the situation, so I don't totally lose my mind in this experience. Probably will anyway, but hey, you never know. And just like any journalist, I need to be very accountable to you guys, my audience, which is why any Patreon contribution is set per video that I produce. You know where I stand, you get what you pay for, and if the content isn't there, you're not getting charged. And that's why, in the spirit of this sort of accountability, the first level at $1 is visibility. You get to see my schedule, my upcoming plans, and maybe even a rough timeline of when some future projects are to be reviewed in detail, all on a handy Google Doc and spreadsheet. Now, certain things, they're inevitable. Billboard Breakdown is a weekly series. It's not going anywhere, don't worry. And subscriber, channel anniversaries, they pretty much supersede anything. They're a special event for this thing. And year-end list, of course they're going to stick around. But between all those, the remaining 75% of my content, the main reviews, this will give you a chance to see what I'm planning on taking my show next. Now, many of you are probably thinking, that's pretty innocuous, nothing all that revolutionary, it's just a schedule, probably doesn't change all that much, and yet, at the same level, 3 times a week, Tuesday and Thursday evening around 7 to 9 Eastern Standard Time, and Sunday afternoon 1 to 3 Eastern Standard Time, you will have an access to that schedule and an opportunity to vote on various entries. Each contributor gets 1 vote, and depending on the vote tallies, I will move entries up and down my schedule to meet your popular demand. And while there are times of year where one record will supersede everything and a lot of the conversation will be all anyone wants me to talk about, I know for a fact, you guys and girls, you're a diverse group, and you watch my show for many different things and genres, from pop fans to metal heads, country fans to hip-hop heads. I can see some contentious votes in the near future. Now, of course, there are some rules here. For one, I've got to vote as well. And this doesn't stipulate a specific timeline for me to cover some of these projects, only the order in which I will cover them. Of course, with the added condition that the project needs to be out commercially as well, not just leaked. If it's not out by the time I get to it, I might cover something else on the schedule first, just in terms of keeping the process going. And that also means that the artist has a massive back catalog to get through ahead of time that I haven't previously examined, I may move some things around the schedule if absolutely necessary. I'm dearly hoping this won't be necessary, but again, sanity protection for me, and I will always be very straightforward and very thorough and open about it if that needs to happen. But wait, you might ask, what if the album that I want you to cover isn't on that schedule? Well, this is where we get to our second level. At $2 once per week during the Saturday afternoon voting, you have the option, instead of voting to change the schedule order, to add an album to my schedule. Of course, there are some rules here. The album has to be from the year in which I'm currently in. In 2016, I'm covering 2016 albums. The lyrics must be available online in full. I cover full-length albums, not EPs, mixtapes, or compilations, and there is zero guarantee that adding a record to this list will guarantee you a positive or negative review. The album will start off at the bottom of the schedule, and yes, of course, I've got the final say in whether or not I'm going to actually cover it. But independent artists, this is your chance to get it on the ground floor if you're truly interested. But isn't there something else in my tagline that doesn't really tend to get enough attention until now? Well, at the highest tier, $5 once per week during the Saturday afternoon voting, you have the option, instead of voting on the schedule order or adding an album, you can add a movie. Now, like with some albums, there are some big stipulations here. The film needs to be from the same year and widely distributed. I need to be actually able to see it in theater or in video or on Netflix. I cover studio-backed films, and again, no guarantee of positive or negative review. Again, it starts off at the bottom of the schedule, but it can be voted on by everyone within the general process. After all, I say on my show I cover music, movies, art, and culture. This way, the truth in that tagline gets to be emphasized just a little bit more. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. Again, this is an experiment of interactivity with you guys. I want to get you more involved in the process while maintaining my usual standard of quality. I'm not going to be gating off content or releasing things earlier for patrons. That's not something I believe in on a fundamental level. I still want to keep the majority of this process flowing as regular. And if you don't want or you can't afford to be a part of it, there's no ill will from me. I totally get that. And sure, there is a far off dream for me doing this full time, but even that won't come, to some extent, without you. But until that comes to be a reality, I'd be very grateful to welcome you to this team where we can actually have a little bit of fun here. Until then, I'm Mark. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you all on Tuesday. Voting starts then, but the experiment, it starts now.